I don't know what to say.
Say something. We keep this going until we get something good.
Baboon.
Baboon? That's it?
Are we good?
Peaks
pops?
Peaks and pops.
Peaks and pops.
Peaks and pops.
Ooh, I think I spit on the mic on that one. So, lucky number 7, our 7th episode.
7th.
I think that means that we are in our first year of our PhD program now. Is that right?
Yeah, everybody is looking forward to my dissertation.
This one, lucky number 7, we thought it would be appropriate to bring in lucky 7.
What is more lucky than the number 7?
What is luckier than rolling dice?
Rolling some dice. I mean, you could roll some cards.
No.
So
we decided it would be fun, since we have so many dice games.
Yeah.
To pull together 7 of them for your listening pleasure. And we are going to review them.
As opposed to other things, we could throw them off a building.
Try to roll them all.
Try to roll them. Yeah, we've got Sagrada.
And Gambler. Paul totally forgot to mention his childhood game, Gambler.
We have a lightning round of 3 quick roll and write games. We got Qwixx, we got Harvest Dice, and we got
Ganz, Schön, Clever.
Yep. I still have some problems with that name.
I saw the deer in headlights look on your face as you were about to say it.
We have a more extended review by itself of Rolling Realms, and we have the big daddy.
Twa.
I like saying it that way. Twa. Do it
I
again.
do too.
Yeah.
Twa. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Great.
Pause for the listener to try saying it that fun way too.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Okay.
How'd it go? Good. That's
Fun,
good.
right?
I'm glad it went well for you. So that's it. Let's without I'm not going to say that. You know what? I'm not going to say without further ado. I say that way too much.
Sans any more hubbub.
Sans any more hubbub. Here we go. The year is 1882. Construction of the Sagrada Familia begins under architect Francisco de Paula del Villar. In 1883, he resigns.
Is that when Gaudi stepped in?
And someone named Gaudi takes over as chief architect, transforming the project with his architectural, engineering, and lyrical freestyle.
La Sagrada Familia is definitely a freestyle architectural building.
Is it like the Winchester Mystery House of cathedrals?
So I have not been to the Winchester Mystery House, although you have told me about it.
Yeah.
But I have been. I'm so lucky. I have been to La Sagrada Familia. It is really a just over the top dramatic building. You just go ooh when you see it, and then you keep going ooh as you're walking through there. That's basically the only sound you hear. It's a chapel, so it's like very quiet, but then you hear everybody making that sound.
Just going
ooh. Basically, it's incredibly gorgeous. The part of the facade looks to me like somebody took a giant pastry bag full of mud and just like squished it out and kind of layered it up to make the building.
Yeah.
And then there are parts that are just beautifully angular, and I don't have words, really. It's a beautiful building. This game, Sagrada, I was actually looking through pictures, and I found a couple of stained glass windows at La Sagrada Familia that clearly are actually what the game is based on.
I've got another important date for you.
Oh, please.
September 14th, 2016.
Well, it's not when the construction was completed, because as I understand it, they are still building this darn thing.
No, that is when the Kickstarter for this game, Sagrada, fully funded.
Aha! This game is only a few years old.
Yeah, significant development in the history of the Sagrada Familia.
Yeah, funded in 2016.
Yeah,
completed 3 expansions.
3 expansions later, here
they
we are.
should get the who designed this game?
This was designed by Daryl Andrews and Adrian Adamescu and published by Floodgate Games.
Great. Well, it sounds to me like Daryl Andrews and Adrian Adamescu could probably get some jobs working for La Sagrada Familia based on their clear vision and ability to execute on it in a timely fashion.
Yeah, sure. Faster than 100 years or whatever, 120 years.
Counting.
So we have on the table here Sagrada. This is a game about rolling pretty-looking dice and sticking them into slots to simulate the building of stained glass windows in this legendary cathedral.
So at first glance, this game has 4, if you're playing with a regular set, stained glass windows in different colors. The top is really just beautiful art. And then the bottom has a 4x5 grid. And you will, at the beginning of a new game, slide a card into that grid that tells you what your placement rules will be for your dice in this game. There's also secret objectives, there are public objectives, and there are tools that you can use to manipulate your dice that are fairly costly but can come through for you in a pinch. That's my little quick overview. Paul, why don't you take us a little bit deeper into the rules and how the game is played?
So the game takes place over 10 rounds, and every round plays out the same. Whoever currently is the bag holder gets to reach into that bag and pull out a certain number of dice. They roll those dice out onto the table, and then going around the table in like A, B, C, and then C, B, A order, players will get to pick 2 dice. So the bag holder chooses one, then the next person chooses one, and then the next person, if it's a 3-player game, chooses 2. And then it comes back around towards the bag holder. When you draft a die from the middle of the table, your placement rules that are on the card that you slid in there are going to inform some rules about where you can place things. For instance, some spots can only hold certain colors, some spots can only hold certain numbers, and then there's the universal placement rules, which is no 2 dice are allowed to be next to each other sharing a side if they're the same color or have the same number. So you have all these rules about where you can and can't place your dice, and play just kind of does that round after round, drafting dice, putting them in your window, trying to make sure that they all fit. And what you're working towards is these public objectives that will get set out at the beginning of the game, such as having a complete set maybe of 1 through 6 in your window, maybe having a complete set of colors in your window.
There are 5 colors in the game.
Maybe having 4 different colors in a column on your window. Maybe having all 5 colors in a row in your window. And you can score these multiple times. So if you have 2 rows with each with the 5 different colors, you can score that objective twice. In this case, it'd give you 12 points. Once
you've played 10 rounds,
then the game is over, and that's it. You add up your private objectives, you add up your public objectives, and whoever has the most points wins. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, that sounds weird, because what if I get myself into a jam and I can't actually place dice? Well, in the worst case scenario, that's true. You can't place dice. But fortunately, the game has given you some tools to help you out. There's this deck of tool cards, and at the beginning of the game, you'll deal out 3 of them, and those are available for everyone to use. Most of them involve re-rolling dice or moving dice around. Sometimes you can ignore placement restrictions when moving these dice around. And the way you use these tools is you get these favor tokens, and the number of favor tokens you get are based on this placement card that you slid into your window.
And how difficult the one that you chose to play with is. So the harder the placement tile that you chose, the more of those stones you'll get that will let you pay to use those tools over the course of the game.
You get 3 to 6 stones depending on the card you choose. If you choose a really easy card with the easy placement rules, they'll only give you 3 stones. But if you choose something that's really difficult, they'll give you 6 to make up for it. And these tools you can use by paying 1 or 2 stones. If you're the first person in the game to use a tool, that's just 1 stone. And then anyone else, including you, who wants to use that tool again has to pay 2 stones. So you just play that over 10 rounds, and at the end of the game, you do that scoring, and whoever has the most points wins.
So that's the game.
That's the game.
Yeah. Lots of dice. Lots of really pretty dice.
Really, these clear, almost, I'm not going to say primary colors, because I may not be a color scientist, but I know that there are more than 3
colors in this game.
Colors in this game. You know, red, blue, yellow, purple, and green. They're really nice. Really, really nice dice.
I would say that the satisfaction of assembling your window with these lovely dice is a nice little logic puzzle for you to work through on your own, with the added bonus of a little bit of stick it to your neighbor if you realize that none of these choices really advantages you and it's all the same what you choose. Then you can take a little sneak peek at your neighbor's window, because the game starts to get tight.
Yep.
As your board fills up and there are fewer and fewer empty spaces available for you to play, and it is everybody is aiming for the same public objectives, you definitely can take a little peek at your neighbors and see, you know, what maybe you want to leave them with to give them the hardest time. But for the most part, it plays as a really pleasurable, in my opinion, logic puzzle. It's almost like solo play with just a little bit of, like I said, kind of stick it to your neighbor if you feel ambivalent about your choices for one round.
I don't do that stick it to your neighbor part because I'm not a jerk, and I believe in good times for all. I look down at my board. I don't pay attention to anybody else. That could be why I don't win the game very often. But you know what? I have the moral high ground, and in this beautiful, beautiful cathedral that we are currently standing in, there's no room for hate drafting here. There's just love drafting, I think, is the order of the day.
So you're telling me that if you had two choices in front of you that were absolutely the same as far as utility towards meeting your goals and your board, you wouldn't even think about looking to see what you're leaving your neighbor with? You're such a good man.
That's me, the good man.
So what do we think about this game, Paul?
You know what? I enjoy it. If it were up to me, I probably would not have this on the shelf. I think it scratches a lot of the same itch for me as Azul does. Azul will be covered in a forthcoming episode. But
is that going to be the one where the theme is pieces that look like candy that I want to eat?
Yes, and can anyone please help me find replacement parts for our copy of Azul?
Also Wingspan.
Yeah, it scratches all the itches, I think, that Azul produces on my body. And
oh dear.
Oh.
Scratch that.
Scratch. Boop. Yeah, it kind of has the same feel to me as Azul, and I think if you really like this one, we can keep it around. There's expansions that could make the game a little bit more interesting, because the private objectives in the base game are just add up all the dice of this one color in your window. And in this last game we played, nobody had a red die higher than a 3. And so, you know, my red public objective was just super useless.
But also in this game that we just played, our friend Rob told us that he recently played with his brother, and his brother had other objective cards.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe if you really like it, it might be worth dropping a little extra money to add some modules into the game to kind of spice things up a little bit.
You know, I do like this one, and I would like to get an expansion.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me that makes this a keeper, and I 100% agree that this scratches the same itch on my body as Azul and the related.
I got a cream for that.
The Azul series of games, which we have all of, and very much enjoy all of those. But I think that this one is a little bit lighter fare, and therefore more accessible to people, and it's just lovely to look at. Yeah. So when we think about games where I might want to try to take them to, say, my parents.
Yeah, in-laws.
Where, what to say about playing games with my parents? They are...
half of them give it their best try. We can just say that. Yeah, this definitely does not to be underestimated. It looks good on the table. You understand exactly how it works. Oh, I can't put this here. This is a red. Not that can only take purples. Azul's trickier. It's trickier.
Yep, exactly.
And so for that, I think the end result here is this stays on our shelf, and in a testament to its longevity on our shelf, we might even get an expansion for it. Sagrada, keeping it, And if you excuse me, I'm going to go book some tickets for the Winchester Mystery House because someone in this house who needs to be creeped out.
Yay!
Yay! Hey, glad you could make it.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, I'm glad you could. Look, everyone else is already here. Come on in. This is gonna be great. Here, check it out. We got snacks.
Ooh.
We got drinks. We got this nice felt table here.
Everyone's wearing sunglasses.
Everyone's wearing sunglasses or a visor, that kind of thing. And check this out. Yeah. Yes, mood lighting. None of us smoke, so I just got a fog machine instead to kind of give it that cool atmosphere. I'm really, really glad you could make it. This is going to be the best poker night ever. Check out these dice, baby. Here we go. Everyone place your bets.
Paul,
and here we go. Highest roll wins everything. Oh, look at that. That's a 6. This is great. Yeah. Look at that. Oh, that's a 4. That ain't going to win it. Oh, and there's... Oh, wow. Look at that. Bill takes it with a 9.
I have some questions.
Sure.
Where are the cards?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Hey, do you like horse races? Here, check it out. There's 6 horses, and all you have to do is just place your bet, and then when it's time, I'm gonna roll this die, and that's the winner of the horse race.
Wait, you just gave me a card for the horse race?
Yeah, roll the die, and that's the winner of the horse race.
I don't think that's how that works, Paul.
Fine, you don't like that game? I got another cool game for you. It's called Even Steven. You just make a bet, and then, guess what? You roll these dice, and if it's even, I give you double your money back.
I think I have to go.
Oh, didn't really figure out how to end that sketch, did we?
That's all right.
Well, dear listener, the year is 1977, and Parker Brothers has released Gambler, ages 10 to adult. It's gambling for kids. You might be asking, why are we talking about a game from 1977 that you could probably only get on eBay these days?
Because you play it with dice.
It's definitely thematic, but also it's my childhood game.
Yeah, that's the reason we have this game.
It's the earliest game I remember playing many, 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 many years ago. I played this game a lot. I didn't even fully understand most of it, but I really enjoyed it.
It's not meant to be a teaching game, Paul. It's fine.
I did not. It's a work, isn't it? I'll just go ahead and describe it to you, dear listener.
No, I want to give my first impression, if I may, because Paul busted this game out, beloved game from his childhood, and, I also have hung on to games from my childhood, so I definitely understand.
Sure.
First impression, the artwork is like nothing you would ever see on a board game today.
No.
It's straight up Schoolhouse Rock style aesthetic, really poppy colors.
Yeah.
It's
big giant hands.
Yeah, giant hands, big hats, that kind of thing.
Little tiny eyes. Yeah.
It's something else. And it is one of those, you just move around the frame of the board and you do what you say on the spot that you land type of games. You got different cards in the middle, and then the centerpiece is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, give it a rattle so people can understand.
Yeah. What you're hearing right there is 6 dice inside of a plastic sarcophagus that says Gambler on it. The dice then shake-a, fall down into the handle, and you put it on the silhouette on the board. Most of the time that's used whenever the game calls for players to take part in a sweepstakes.
Or a lottery.
Or a lot. Oh, that's true. Or the lottery. Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of...
just so many different ways to bet money and then resolve that with a die roll.
Exactly what I was going to say. Exactly. So yeah, that's my first impression of the game. I thought, oh goodness. Well, this should be...
Yeah.
It should be interesting. But... I'll let you take it away and describe a little bit more about how the game plays.
Just a little bit more. So, you've got your board with all these spaces around it, kind of like a Monopoly board. Everyone starts on start. And on your turn, you just roll some dice and you move that many spaces and you do what it says. They could be anything from the bank pays you $50 to roll a die and get that much money from the bank, or roll a die and give that much money to the bank. There could be things like even Steven, bet up to $100, roll the dice. If it's even, you get that double your money back.
Or here's one in front of me.
Yeah, here's a cool one.
High roller.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say cool. Bet up to $50. Roll dice twice. If second roll is higher, bank pays you twice the bet.
Oh, that is probably the most involved rule set of almost all the spaces on here. You got unlucky 7 over there. What does that say? Roll a 7.
Yep. If you roll a 7, you have to pay the bank $30, and anything else that you get, the bank will pay you $30.
We've also got fortune cards. There's spots where it says take a fortune card, and you get fortune cards that say things like pay $100 to the bank, pay $50 to the bank. The bank pays you $50. Collect $50 from the player on your right. But the most enjoyable part of this game, I think, is the lottery and the sweepstakes. Both of them involve, like we said earlier, this dice shaker. The lottery, at the start of your turn, you can spend $10 per ticket for up to 3 lottery tickets. You can hold a max of 3. And whenever a lottery is called, once again, we do the shake-a, and we put those dice into the handle, and you compare the dice in the handle with your lottery ticket. And every lottery ticket has 2 numbers on it. I'm looking at one that says 2 and 6. Nope, that's a loss. I'm looking at one that says 3 and 4. That's a loss. I'm looking at one that says 3 and 5. What a surprise. Also a loss.
Really? All of those were losers?
All of them were losers because we got a bunch of 2s, 4s, and a 5 in there somewhere. No 3s. So the lottery is a chance to really make some good money back. Tickets are $10, but they pay $50 if you win. And the sweepstakes is this thing where you have a betting chip and you put it down on the mat where you think the highest number is going to be in that handle of the shaker. But there's also a couple of extra spots, like, do you think pairs are going to happen? Like 2 4s are going to be next to each other? Or do you think there's going to be a straight, like a 1 2 3 or a 3 4 5 next to each other in that handle? That's, I think, the most interesting gambling part of this game. The rest of this stuff, here we are through the lens of 30 some odd years later. What a simple game. What a simple, stupid, straightforward game this was. But I love it. I love it. I'm keeping it. And we are going to be playing it with our daughter when she is old enough to understand what money is, how cool it is to get money, and how much it sucks to have it taken away from you by random chance.
Mm-hmm. So this game, you just play first player to $1,000.
First player to $1,000 wins.
You also get money every time you loop around the board. So
$100.
I don't see how. I mean, I'm surprised that there's an IOU like debt option in this game because it seems like it's really difficult to run completely out of money.
We had a friend, Vanessa, who almost ran out of money.
Almost.
She almost
ran out.
If you run out of money, you got to take an IOU that gives you $200 from the bank, and you can't take a second one. So the only way to get rid of it is to pay that $200 back plus $20 interest. If you ever have to take a second IOU, you are out of the game. You have gambled too much.
So I don't know what this game is supposed to teach you. I don't think anything.
I don't think
it certainly doesn't teach you about poker or the lottery or horse races or gambling really at all, honestly. Yeah. But it does have a certain charm. A lot of that is the aesthetic.
Well, look at this. Parker Brothers Division at General Mills Fun Group Incorporated, Salem, Mass. It doesn't say who designed it. They didn't really do that back then. So I can only assume it was generated by a machine, by a sentient machine. There we go. That's a nice little peek into a game of my childhood. Just a really dumb game, and I absolutely adore it.
And we had a great time playing it this weekend.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, there may have been some substances involved, some intoxicants. I find that helps.
I mean, that's exactly what a real casino is like. That's probably what
true.
This game actually teaches you. Like, if you want to gamble, you should probably be drinking.
Yeah, to drink. Gambling for kids.
10 and up.
Laura,
Yes, Paul?
we gotta go. It's time to go. Let's do lightning round. Here we go.
Lightning round. 3 games. Quick review.
3 games, quick review, rolling right, lightning round. What are we doing first? What's first?
Well, first, we're talking about Qwixx.
Talking about Qwixx.
We're going to talk about it real quick.
real quick. Tell us about it.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Qwixx plays, you got 4 colored dice. You got 4 colored rows.
Yeah.
The red and the yellow row both start at 2 and go incrementally up to 12. The blue and the green row start at 12 and count down incrementally to 2. So you need to roll 6 dice, 1 of each color, red, yellow, green, and blue, and you will also roll 2 white dice.
Yeah.
At the beginning of your turn, if you're the one who has rolled, you can optionally choose to fill in one of the squares in any of the colors from the sum of the 2 white die, and your opponent also has the option to play off of your 2 white die. Additionally, when it's your turn, you may choose one of the 2 rolled white dice and one of the 4 colored dice and add that sum up and cross off that corresponding number in that row. When it's all said and done, as long as you have crossed off at least 1, if not 2 numbers this turn, you're good. Unless you just really had a terrible roll and you wish to pay 5 points to pass.
Pass.
So the little trick is that you must toss off your squares from left to right, meaning if you start by choosing a 10 in one of the rows that counts down from 12,
Yeah.
you will not be able to fill out a 12 or 11 or 10 again in that row. You must only fill out 9 and below from there on out.
What if I choose a blue 3 right off the bat? Is that a good idea?
That's a terrible idea, Paul.
I shouldn't do that. Can I erase? No, it's all permanent
Well, I mean, technically you could erase.
if
but
you
that's really-
laminated your score sheets.
Dear listener, Paul has laminated all of our score sheets.
That's not all I've laminated.
That is the tip of the lamination iceberg. Our daughter is laminated. And let me tell
Head to
you,
toe.
it makes cleanup so
That
easy.
machine was so expensive.
What are the catches to Qwixx, Paul?
Those are the catches to Qwixx.
Well, I
you've
mean, what's
covered
with these
everything.
little lock symbols?
The lock symbols, right. Once you've filled out 5 squares or more in a row, you have the opportunity to lock that row. And the way you lock the row is to fill in the last number in that row. So the red and the yellows, if that 12 comes up, great. For the green and the blue, if the 2 comes up, great. Once you've locked the row, that die is removed from the game. If I fill in 5 squares in the green row and then I manage to pick the green 2, great, I've locked the green row and nobody can use the green die.
Yep. And that's it. Basically, you get points based on how many...
When does the game end?
Oh, I'm sorry. The game ends when 2 colored dice are locked or when either player has finished all 4 of their passes.
Yeah.
The passes lose you 5 points each, and you can, as we said, if you just really hate what you rolled or don't want to take it or can't take it,
Yeah.
you can cross one of those out. So once you have finished the game, you score up points based on the number of numbers that you've crossed off in each color. Then you subtract points for the number of passes, and that's it.
Yeah, the game definitely scales up. The more numbers you've crossed off in a row, you get an increasing number of points. It's not just 1 point per X. It really ramps up really quick.
1 box is 1.
Yeah.
2 boxes is 3.
Yeah.
3 boxes is 6. It's that sequence where you add 2, then you add 3, then you add 4, then you add
Yeah.
5. What's that called?
I don't know.
Can we look that up and punch it in and pretend like we were smart?
Yeah, we'll look at definitely. You should hear the answer to that right about now.
According to internet research and our friend Rob, that would be a triangular sequence.
God, we're so smart.
You know, we're so smart that I think that Qwixx might be a little too easy for us.
Well, check out the back of that.
Ooh. Well, Paul, I didn't see Qwixx Mix before.
Qwixx Mix. It's just like regular Qwixx, except the rows are chopped up, mixed up, and the red row doesn't necessarily go straight from left to right. Maybe the red row goes a little bit up here and a little bit down there. I encourage you, dear listener, if Qwixx sounds intriguing or you've played Qwixx and you want something a little bit weirder, Qwixx Mix. That's just a little like a double shot there of Qwixx.
Yeah, it's
for
got
you.
like little pieces of pretzels in there
Yeah.
and like a
Mhm.
little like dusting of some kind of seasoning.
Yeah.
There might be like
Paprika. Cumin.
Speaking of Chex Mix joke, did that come through?
I don't know. Do I know spices? Did I guess the right ones? Did I know? I don't know what's in Chex Mix.
Great. On to the next.
Speaking of Chex Mix and things that are delicious, let's talk about harvest dice.
All right, Paul, lightning round. Describe harvest dice.
Harvest dice. You got yourself a little garden here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 3 rows, 18 squares in your garden. That garden can hold carrots, it can hold lettuce, it can hold tomatoes. And then down on the lower left of your score sheet, you got a little pig pen. That pig is going to eat some vegetables that you might feed to him if you can't plant them. Why wouldn't you be able to plant your vegetables? I'll tell you why. At the start of your turn, you're going to roll your dice. These dice come in 3 colors: carrot color, lettuce color, and tomato color. Then, starting with the person who rolled the dice and going around the table, everyone gets to pick 1 die. What they can do with that die is they can either use the value of that die to plant that color vegetable in their garden. Let's say I pick up the red 3. I look at my garden, I see the 3 column has 3 empty spaces in it. Great, I could put a tomato in any of those 3 open spaces. But here's the catch. The next time I want to plant a tomato, gotta build it off of that tomato, which means the next time I plant a tomato will have to then be with either a 2, a 3, or a 4. No way am I going to be able to plant with a 6 because that's too far away this early on. Maybe if in a few rounds I planted tomatoes all the way out there, that'd be great. So you have to cluster your carrots, you have to group your tomatoes, and you...
Are you going for alliteration with all 3?
I was trying.
Cluster your carrots.
Yeah. Twist up your tomatoes and lump together your lettuce. Ha! There we go. Now, if you manage to take a die that you can't or don't want to use to plant, you can feed it to your pig. If it's, say, a value 6, you just mark off 6 little dots in the pig pen there. And the pig pen is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. And every time you fill up a row, you get 1 use of piggy power.
And piggy power is the way that you can bump a number of a die that you don't like up or down by 1, or you can change the color of that die from carrot color to tomato color to lettuce color, vice versa, etc.
So we go around and around the table, everyone picking a die and deciding what to do with it until there is 1 die left. That does mean that not everyone in a given round gets an equal number of dice, but it works itself out over the course of the game typically. With that single die left, you'd look down here in the lower right of your score sheet. If it's, say, for example, the last remaining die is a carrot, you mark off a spot in the carrot cart. Every cart has 6 spots. The first one is pre-filled in. And what that means is at the end of the game, those vegetables are going to be worth that many points. So the fact that I've crossed off 1 spot in the carrot cart for a total of 2 spots means that carrots will be worth at least 2 points per carrot at the end of the game. The game ends when either someone's pig pen is completely full, someone's garden is completely full, or one of the 3 vegetable carts is completely full. There's scoring, like I said, based on the value of each vegetable, decided by the number of crossed out spots in their carts. Every row in pig power can get you an increasing number of points, and you also get some extra bonuses for having your garden rows filled in, for having the most of a certain type of vegetable, and for having fed the most stuff to your pigs. It's a light game, it's a quick game, and it's no longer the game I want to talk about because we're moving on to game number 3. Ganz, Schön, Clever. Am I saying it right?
Yes, that's lovely.
Is it Ganz? Ganz, Schön? Ganz, it's got
Schön.
This. Is it Schön?
Schön.
Schön. Ganz, Schön, Clever.
Perfect.
That's pretty clever. This is the next game in our lightning round.
So this is going to be a difficult one to lightning explain, I think. It's got a lot going on.
Okay.
I think quick overview, you have 6 dice that you're rolling. You've got a blue, a green, orange, yellow, purple, and a white die. You have corresponding regions for those colors on the score sheet. Each of these regions plays a little bit differently, so just real quick again. The yellow one is a grid, which is a 4x4 grid, and your goal is to fill out rows or columns or a diagonal there to get some kind of perks. The blue one, again, you're looking at a grid, you want to get rows or columns, but the tricky thing here is that you actually have to add the blue die and the white die up to figure out which one to fill out.
Yep.
The green, orange, and purple all work from left to right building out. They each have kind of their own thing going on. The orange is the simplest. You can simply just fill in a number there. It doesn't really matter, whatever you want. It's kind of like a catch-all row.
Yeah.
The greens, you got to fill them in increasing values. And then the purple, also in increasing values, but you got to loop around back to 1. It's kind of a whole thing.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and then loop back to 1.
Yep.
You can only go from 6 to 1.
You can only go from 6 to 1. That is true. So it has a little bit of a feel like Qwixx in that there is a community pot sort of situation.
Yeah.
It works a little bit differently. It's only what's left over after you've chosen your dice. So if you're the active player, you roll all 6 dice and you choose one and you mark off the corresponding spot on the board, and then you roll what's left and then you choose the second one and mark off the corresponding spot, etc., etc. Tricky little fun thing is that you must put up for everyone else anything that is lower than the die that you have chosen.
Well, now, Laura, that completely obliterates my strategy of taking the 6 on my very first roll.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that because then you wouldn't have anything left to roll yourself, and that means no more
Cleverness.
squares for you to get. No more cleverness.
No more
cleverness. Exactly.
Yeah, we go around and around and around, rolling dice and choosing dice, and once it comes back around to the start player, that's the end of a round. At the top of every round, everyone kind of gets some bonuses. The 2 big bonuses are re-rolls and being able to choose extra dice. Maybe here's a bonus re-roll for you. Oh, at the top of round 2, here's an extra +1 choose an extra die bonus for you. Bonuses get unlocked, and then they can be used at your discretion. You probably want to use them all before the end of the game, otherwise they were a waste. And you play a variable number of rounds depending on number of players, and then you score each of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. And then every section, if you do well enough in it, you have the opportunity to unlock a fox. Foxes are a way to kind of get some extra scoring based on your least valuable scored area. The more foxes you've unlocked and the higher your lowest scoring area is, the more points you're going to score. Points. And whoever has the most points at the end wins.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't even talk about how Ganz, Schön, Clever has all these other things that you can unlock. So you have some snowball effects for things
combos.
Like combos
and combos and combos and combos. I'm gonna take a breather for a second. Whew. I gotta stretch out. Don't want to pull a hammy. Let's we're at halftime here. Let's take a breather and talk a little bit about what we like about these games.
Well, we like roll and writes.
We like roll and writes.
Mm-hmm.
They're fun.
I definitely think we like giving you things to laminate.
Yeah, that's true.
And these are all laminated.
They are.
They're beautiful.
It was a project.
The best part is that we can feel good about saving the environment.
Yeah.
With our
plastic.
Coating things in plastic.
Mm-hmm. We're saving the environment from our daughter. We have coated her in plastic.
Yeah, what do we like about it? I mean, we like all these games. We like roll and writes. That's why we wanted to get into this, right?
They're fun.
Mm-hmm. I think they're usually in small packages. All 3 of these certainly are. Really easy to pick up and grab and bring wherever you're going, especially when you're trying to play games with, let's say, older family members who don't like games but like Yahtzee.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe not Ganz, Schön, Clever.
No.
But Qwixx
and
Harvest Dice.
Harvest Dice. You just, especially with these handy laminated copies. I have to note, dear listener, I have not been paid by the Scotch office supply company to endorse their laminator. But you could do a lot worse than $20 on Amazon.
But Volcanic's dry erase markers, on the other hand.
There's nothing I like more than writing on my laminated stuff with a Volcanic's dry erase marker. Here's what I like about roll and writes. A good roll and write is going to give you a chance to sit there and kind of agonize for 30 seconds over what do I do with these dice I've just been given. Sometimes they'll give you some kind of re-roll thing, but Qwixx doesn't. No re-rolls. That's it. That's your roll. And you sit there and you agonize because you know if I make this choice in 3 turns from now, I'm going to regret it. And the fun thing about roll and writes is those 3 turns typically show up within the next 5 minutes. They're quick. They're snappy. You can play them. You can play them in an airport. You can play them on a kitchen table while waiting for dinner to come out.
I do like them, Sam. I am.
You can play them while driving. I shouldn't have said that. A good roll and write has those just these little spikes of tension. Oh, this is a bad choice, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Qwixx has that distilled down. Harvest Dice, Not quite so much. Harvest Dice has a little bit more of this spatial reasoning, a little bit more of this, I should put this over here and I should put that over there. And you do actually have to look at what other people are doing. If I know that you're planting a lot of carrots, maybe I want to make sure that carrots are
not super valuable in the end game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that Harvest Dice has that these other two games. Well, Qwixx has a little bit of looking at the other player sheet. If I know that you're closing in on being able to lock out green, maybe I'm going to try to get as much green as possible before that die gets taken away from me. Ganz, Schön, Clever, on the other hand, there really isn't much player interaction at all. But that's fine because this game is combo-tastic, and it is super fun to be like, I put this here, which unlocks this spot over here, which, gives me the chance to put something in over here, which gives me the ability to take an extra die, and I will use that right now, which lets me put something over here. It's a great feeling.
It is so fun when you get those snowball effects towards the end of the game of Ganz, Schön, Clever.
Yeah.
And because every time your opponent is playing, if you've gained extra +1s, you might have the option to take multiples of their dice, so it keeps you engaged on their turn.
Yeah, it makes sure that everyone is paying attention to what's going on the table. There you go. 3 roll and writes. All 3 of these, I think I would recommend definitely Ganz, Schön, Clever. Laura, do you agree?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Harvest Dice, I'm okay with it. I'm going to keep it around. If it's time for me to clear off my little shelf of tiny games, Harvest Dice would probably be one of the first to go. Qwixx, I don't need to worry about it because I literally don't have a box for it. It's just some laminated score sheets and dice I already have. If you would like to purchase Qwixx, then go ahead and find it at your friendly local game store. It's like $10 or $15. That's my assessment. Laura, what do you think?
I completely agree with all that. I would like to mention that I think one of the joys of playing Harvest Dice is watching people try to draw lettuce. Even the game understands that it's impossible. The game
don't draw lettuce.
The game actually notes that carrot looks like a carrot.
Yeah.
Tomato looks like a tomato.
Sure.
And then the lettuce is represented by a square with 2 lines.
That is good enough for me. It is the future. It is year 2022. All of our lettuce should be cubed. Dear listener, close your eyes. Project yourself back to a distant time. A time that barely any of us remember. Probably, I would say, mid-2020.
It is kind of a blur.
and picture yourself as someone who wants to unite the world. You want to unite the world in play. You want to unite the world in leisure. You want to make sure that everybody out there knows the names of all the games that your company produces. And so what you do is you release a little free print and play game that takes a little from this game and a little from that game and smashes it all together and just requires a couple of dice and a pencil. Well, congratulations, dear listener. You are Jamie Stegmeyer of Stonemaier Games, and you have released a game called Rolling Realms.
Ba-ba-ba.
For all of us to enjoy. That is exactly what happened, more or less. And it was such a hit that he's produced a full-fledged version of it with actual real cards and actual real markers inside of an actual real box with actual real dice inside of it. Rolling Realms by Stonemaier Games.
So first impression of Rolling Realms, you have these 11 cards. They're nicely different colors, and each one has the name of one of the games from the Stonemaier ludographic universe.
Oh, watch out. Disney's coming. They're gonna buy him out.
And actually, I enjoy your point, too, about it being a great way to advertise the other games in the series, because I know and like many of these games.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard of a couple of them. And I'm like, I wonder if I would enjoy that. So it was a pretty good move. But in general, as I said, 11 cards, 11 different games. Each one is loosely thematically related as far as how you play dice on that card.
Oh, it's time for a lightning round. It's time to go over each and every one of these cards. Here we go. We've got viticulture.
Paul, we're not doing that.
Fine. Go ahead with your snail round.
Ahem.
Round for
I
snails.
was not going to go through all the directions. I was just going to give a quick overview.
Okay, fine. Compromise.
Deal. All right. So yes, they're all loosely themed based on the games that they represent. You have, as you mentioned, the 2 dice. You have a card where you can track your own personal resources that you will amass over the course of the round. And you've got your roll tracker where you track each of the 9 rolls per round. It's really just a way to help keep you organized and make sure that you've placed all of your dice. Paul, why don't you run through a quick overview of the general rules with maybe a couple of specific examples.
I got the music right. I queued it up. We can do lightning style.
Please
no. Oh, fine. Yeah, you've got 11 realms. Wingspan, Viticulture, Between Two Cities, Pendulum, Charterstone, My Little Scythe, My Big Scythe, Tapestry, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, Euphoria, and honestly, a game I haven't heard of called The Society. Apparently, The Society is a reference to the game Red Rising, which is based on a series of books that I haven't read. At the start of a round, you're going to take 3 of these cards randomly and just put them out on the table. And everyone is going to play with those exact same 3 cards. I've got in front of me here Euphoria, The Society, and Wingspan. Then you're just going to roll these 2 dice. And now with these 2 dice, look at this. I got a 2 and I got a 4. And with these 2 dice, I have to activate 2 of the 3 realms. Can't activate a realm twice. And typically when you activate a realm, it involves marking off a box or filling in a box or something like that. And you typically can't mark off the same box or fill in the same box twice. Here's a good example. Wingspan. You got a box that says 7, a box that says 12, and a box that says 16. Those are wingspans. And in each of those wingspan boxes, there's 3 little tiny cute little boxes. Each of those boxes lets you fill in a number. So maybe I could put the 4 in the 7 box. With the idea in that 7 box that I would fill in those numbers from left to right. And I would get some kind of bonus if the numbers in that 7 box add up to 7.
So if you start with a 4, you best be putting a 2 and a 1 after that to get the bonus points.
Yeah, those bonus points are pretty good. And speaking of points, how do you get points? That's a great question. The way to get points is different from card to card. Let's continue with this wingspan thing. If you fill in the 3rd box of one of these wingspan boxes, so I managed to get all the way to the right in this 7 box, that's a star. Ba-ding! If I manage to add up to exactly 7, that's a 2nd star. Ba-ding! And then there's a 12 wingspan box and a 16 wingspan box, and those have the exact same rules for a maximum of 6 total stars. And every realm has 6 stars available to get. The rules for each one is different. I'm going to hold on one second. I'm going to check. Hey, Laura, are we still okay to do a lightning round? Because, I can do one.
No, Paul, but you can describe one of the other cards that you just pulled out if you'd like.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. I can describe the Society. The Society has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 boxes in a pyramid. 4 on the bottom, 3, and then 2. The rule for the Society card is that you can fill these boxes in any order you want. The only catch is every box needs to be lower than the box directly above it. So you're going to have smaller numbers on the bottom and bigger numbers up on the top. And the way you get stars in the Society is when you have 2 boxes filled in and the box above those 2 filled in a little mini pyramid, you get a star, which means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars available, just like in Wingspan. Every card, 6 stars.
So every card, 6 stars. Every card also some ability to get some of those resources.
Yeah.
The resources are pumpkins, hearts, and coins. They do slightly different things. The pumpkins will let you adjust a die number, +1, -1, etc. The hearts will let you gain an extra die. Either if it's a pair, you can get an extra one of the pair, or if it's just regular 2 rolls, you can get a duplicate of one of those. And the coins will let you get a die, but you have to spend enough coins to match the pips on the die that you would like to gain.
Yeah.
The nice thing about gaining a die is that you can then play into your third realm all on the same turn. So I don't know if you noticed, dear listener, and if you didn't, I will tell you something that I didn't notice, like the first couple of rounds I played and was definitely shaking my fist afterwards. Many of these cards have exactly 9 places that you need to play in. And to get all 6 of the stars that the card can yield, again, many of these will require you to fill in all 9 of those boxes, which, if we mention that you only have 9 die rolls total per round.
I'm not good at math, but that seems like that's really difficult to do.
Right, because if you have 3 cards, each one of them requiring 9 die rolls in there, and you're rolling the dice 9 times.
Oh, I got this. Hang on. Can we do a lightning round? Can we do a lightning round now?
No lightning rounds, Paul.
Oh.
I think what you're looking for is that the math doesn't add up.
No.
Right? You can't somehow magically fill in 9 plus 9 plus 9 with only 2 dice that you're rolling 9 times that can only be placed once.
The numbers do add up, and they spell disaster for you.
They do spell disaster for me. I don't think you meant it quite like that, but I do lose this game to you. So,
Yeah,
yes.
That's true.
But that is where the gain a die abilities of some of these resources can come in extremely handy.
Yep. And when you've got resources that unlock dice and spots where you can gain resources to give you other resources to unlock other dice to put into other spots, that introduces combos. And combos beget combos, and we get more combos and combos and combos. And then you just kind of roll and write and roll and write for 9 turns in a round. Then everyone adds up all their points. And by points, I mean stars on their cards. Stars are worth 1 point each. And then any unused resources you have at the end of the round are worth 1/10 of a point.
And it actually does add up, because you might have some times where you really just are flush with
pumpkins.
Flush with pumpkins. And no worries, they will yield you some points in the end if you can't quite use them to get what you need as far as bumping values of your die rolls.
Yeah. So that's the game. You do that for a round, and then once the round is over, you take those 3 cards, you put them aside, you go back to your unchosen cards, you pick 3 more, put them down. You play those, then you put those aside, and you pick 3 more, you put those down. Then when the game is over, whoever has the most points is the winner, the ruler, the master ludographer of the Rolling Realms. The game comes with 11 of these cards, and since you use 9 of them in a game, that's 2 that are unused, and you can fold them into your next game.
But, Paul, what's up with the 2 other cards you have over there?
Oh, these 2?
Yes.
These 2 right here?
Yes.
With a little special star.
Those
on
ones
the
that
upper
we've
left?
played with, yes.
That we've played with.
Mm-hmm.
These are promo cards.
Oh.
I don't actually know how you can get them because we are currently playing a copy that was pre-played. But they are promo cards that feature Terra Mystica, which is not a game that Stonemaier Games publishes, but is very popular, and a card for another game that you may have heard of called Rolling Realms by Stonemaier Games.
Yeah, the self-referential one. I like that.
Yeah, it's cute, and it works. It's fun. This particular card gives you 3 dice that you have to fill numbers in on, and it rewards you for having the same numbers on each of the 3 dice and having those numbers add up to the same values. That's fun. That's cute. I like it.
Yeah. I really like this game, and I'm not very good at it, which is frustrating. But
I know that feeling.
I like logic puzzles, and what this really amounts to is a logic puzzle that is going to be different every time you play it.
Yeah.
Every round is going to be different. The cards that you select relate to each other in different ways.
Yeah.
So when you take in all 3 that you've chosen for a given round, you basically, as I said, have created this kind of logic puzzle where you will go into it knowing, okay, if I've got to put my 6s over here, or I should focus on getting the low ones over here, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I really like that you get an idea going into it, and then it's the luck of the rolls.
Yeah.
As far as how you proceed through it. So I think it's fun for that reason. It's also something that you could play with a big group of people because there is zero player interaction.
Yeah, I was doing just a little reading about it in the time that I would have spent doing my lightning round. That Jamie Stegmaier actually wanted to create an infinitely scalable game that could be played with an infinite number of people, and the box that you purchase just happens to have enough cards for 6, but there's no reason why you can't just buy and hand out multiple copies at your next big giant gaming convention or something and have everyone in the building play this game.
Yeah, that would actually be super fun. I would love to do something like that. I would also lose, but...
Yeah, but well, I mean, the odds would be against you. You could also, for example, if when we move into Twitch streaming, finally, once we gain a second dear listener and we get a camera and move the kiddo out of her room and put her down in the basement and build a studio in that room. We should talk about that later. The look on your face is telling me. If someone wanted to Twitch stream this, right, and say, hey, everyone who's watching now or people who might be watching in the future, let's do that. I did that with a railroading game, and that was fun. To play along with people from the past was kind of neat. And that's, I think, what he was going for. And I think he did a really good job. I think he succeeded. I don't think I would pay $40 for this game.
Is it $40? I didn't
No,
know that.
not at all. I don't think I would pay $30 for this game.
Okay.
It's also not $30.
How much is this game?
It is $20. I feel like that's kind of a steal, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, why are we complaining about it then?
I wasn't. I wouldn't want to pay $40 for it. I wouldn't want to pay $30 for it.
But you phrased it like...
I know, right? I got you. I took it and I turned it. I got to keep you on your toes. $20 right now. I think it's absolutely worth $20. It's clever. There's not really a roll and write game like it, and I think it's really neat. Another cool aspect of it is the community. You head on over to Board Game Geek right now, all kinds of fan-created cards. There's a person out there who's kind of cracked the formula for more or less how to make a balanced card, and people are taking that little article he wrote and running with it and coming up with new cards for all kinds of games. Now, they wouldn't be actually made of the same material. You'd want to sleeve them or print them up and sleeve them and then use some kind of random number generator to pick the cards you're going to play with. But otherwise, I think it's a really interesting idea, and I think it's definitely, if roll and writes even sound remotely like your thing, you could do a lot worse than dropping $20 on Rolling Realms.
I love that it is scalable, not only in terms of the number of players, but as you mentioned, the kind of infinite possibilities of adding new game cards to the mix.
Yeah. Why stop at 3 rounds? Why not play 4 or 5? Other than, like, it's possible if you play that many rounds to be so far behind you'll never catch up. But other than that, you could just play with a giant stack of fan-created cards. It's a really cool framework, I think, is really what he's selling here. And I'm here for it. I dig it.
We're buying what you're selling.
Yes, take my money, Jamie. In the year 1200, the foundation is laid for the Cathedral of Troyes, but it will not be finished until 400 years later, after innumerable incidents. You know, deadlines, they slip, things happen, giant stones come crashing down, killing half your workforce.
Are we talking about comets?
Comets? No, I mean literally the stones of the cathedral. They're built out of stones, not comets.
So the stones that are crushing the people are coming from the top of the cathedral, not from the sky.
Not from the sky. Yeah. It is not raining cathedrals. But here, the Cathedral of Troyes takes a really long time to build, and that's partially, I think, because they keep using dice.
Well, certainly stacking dice to build a cathedral does not sound like the best plan, really. I get that the aesthetic might be actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I think what they do is for every stone they want to put down, they roll a die. And on a 4-up, the stone appears and the cathedral gets built a little higher.
But they only would stack it on top of the place where the 4 die rolls go, obviously.
Obviously, yes. Yeah. But if they roll really badly, stones start disappearing, and that's when stuff just goes haywire. I also think I should not have given up on that architecture degree. because I clearly have no idea how cathedrals are built. But we can learn together in Troyes.
So it's funny because I don't even necessarily think about Troyes as being a game about building a cathedral. That seems like one thing that you can do in the game and not even the most important, really.
Yeah,
or
to be fair,
certainly not the most interesting.
To be fair to Troyes, I've only read like one sentence from the flavor text that they've given us. I'm not going to read any more, though, because I want to talk to you.
Also, are we sure it's pronounced Troyes?
I'm absolutely certain. That is actually something that gets mentioned a lot. You'll see people in reviews and stuff being like, today we're going to talk about Troyes. Nope.
But is it a real city?
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got to be.
In France?
Yeah, sure. How about let's look it up. Wikipedia corner. Here we go.
Beep, boop, 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 boop.
Boop, 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 boop. Insert computer noises here. Troyes. Troyes. Yeah, actual cathedral, actual city. It's in France.
And actually pronounced Troyes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
All right, then. I just wanted to be sure. After the confusion about Pompeii.
Yeah, it's true. He's pompissed. We can't say that. Well, maybe we can.
So let's talk about the game.
Yeah. Here we are, 5 minutes in. We can talk about the game now. Troyes. It's a dice rolling game. You roll some dice. You feed them into these cards that represent activities. And those activities let you do things like earn victory points, earn money, fight off bad events like marauders and Amway salesmen, and all kinds of things, all in the relentless pursuit of victory points.
So there are 4 different sectors of the board where you can do activities. There is the, as we mentioned before, very boring quadrant that I just cannot believe is the overarching theme of the game.
I'm going to look it up to see if Troyes is French for boring.
Which is where you can simply add one of your dice to the cathedral to help build it. And you're going to be way more interested in all of the cards that you flip with the different activities in each of the other 3 regions. So kind of going counterclockwise, because that's also up at the top there. There's the, what did you call that? The bishopric?
The bishopric? I've never seen that word before, and I'm too lazy to look it up.
I think it might be some kind of churchy place as well.
The churchy place.
Sure. And the kinds of activities that you can take up there, generally speaking, are converting your dice or the dice that you purchase from your other players. Paul will talk about that rule stuff in a second.
Yeah.
But convert those to either more dice or different colors of dice, or bump the numbers on your dice, something like that. A lot of dice manipulation up there.
Yeah.
Down here, still going counterclockwise in the, what's this red area?
I think that's the palace.
In the palace, you get to do things with red dice. Oh, I probably should have mentioned the bishopric largely focuses, or almost exclusively focuses, on doing things with your white dice.
Yeah.
And in the red dice area, the palace, you get to take a bunch of actions, mostly having to do with solving the marauder events.
Yeah. Say that again. They're not all marauder events. They're just events.
Okay, they're marauders, and what else? What are
all kinds of
attacks
other
and things? Okay.
Yeah, all kinds of other events.
Okay.
Like brigands, conflict of succession, theological conflict,
oh, wow,
and civil war.
Oh gosh. Okay, so internal and external events.
Yeah. They're just bad events.
It's kind of like military stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, ish.
Okay, so then continuing counterclockwise, you have this red area, which, what did you say that was? Like the
palace?
The palace area, which has to do with using your red dice.
Red equals force.
Sure. And one of the big themes in that area that you can activity-wise do with the cards that you reveal over the course of the game has to do with counteracting some of the negative events that you flip over at the beginning of every round, and other things like that. And then in the last quadrant, this yellow corner here, what area is this, would you say?
That is City Hall.
City Hall. Seems to be maybe like a marketplace-y kind of theme, but the general kinds of activities that you can take there, they all have to do with your yellow dice, and they are things like get extra victory points or make money, things like that.
Yeah. So what we do with these dice is you roll them. Roll them, baby. You roll these dice. What good are dice?
Unlike most dice games.
Yeah, unlike most dice games where you carefully set them on the board and never touch them again, in this game, you get to roll them. So at the top of the round, first, everyone gets some income. Everyone gets 10 monies of income, and then they have to pay any of their meeples that they have stationed at these 3 buildings. So I'll have to pay 1 money for each of my meeples here at the bishopric, and then 2 money for this meeple that I have here at the palace.
The city hall's free.
The city hall is free. People work there out of a lot of love for government and their community. Then, after all your meeples have been paid, you gather your dice. I have 2 meeples at the bishopric, so that's 2 white dice. I have a meeple at the palace, so that's 1 red die. And then I have 2 blue meeples at City Hall, so that's 2 yellow dice. Then everyone rolls them up, roll, and those dice get put in your district right here in the center of the board that's shaped like a pie. A delicious concrete cobblestone pie.
I was just going to say, there's really nothing pie-like about it except that it's a bunch of wedges.
It's a bunch of wedges. You know what? Mental note, I'm going to eat some pie after this. Then, after we've all placed our dice in our districts, we flip over some cards. The current round's card gets flipped over in the bishopric, in the palace, and in the city hall. There are... I'm having a hard time, man.
When you say a typical round.
So Laura's laid out how the board looks. Let's talk about how the game actually plays. Depending on the number of players, you could go 4, 5, or 6 rounds, and every round plays exactly the same. At the top of the round, everyone gets their income. Your base income is 10 monies, and then you have to spend money in order to pay any of the meeples that you have stashed at the various buildings around the board. Meeples that are stored here in the bishopric, you got to pay them 1 each, and meeples that are stored here in the palace, you got to pay them 2 each. So, for example, I have 2 meeples here in the bishopric, so that's 2 monies I got to pay. And then I have 1 meeple here in the palace, so that's another 2 monies that I've got to pay. Once you've paid all your meeples, then you get to collect your dice. In this example, I have 2 meeples in the bishopric, so that's 2 white dice. That's 1 meeple in the palace, so that's 1 red die.
And anybody in the city hall works for free.
Once you've paid all your meeples, then you get to collect your dice. So I have 2 meeples in the bishopric, that's 2 white dice. I have 1 meeple in the palace, that's a red die, and I have 2 meeples in the city hall, so that's 2 yellow dice. Then once everyone has collected all of their dice, you roll, and put those dice that you've rolled right into your district in the center of the board. It looks like someone made a pie out of paper that had just been left out overnight. And
it's really not
soggy.
Like a pie at all, except that it's divided into wedges, Paul. There's nothing pie-like about it, folks.
I really should
If you're looking for pie, this is not the game for you.
Once everyone's rolled all their dice and put them in their districts, now it's time for the events to come out. You reveal 1 red event, and that red event will tell you if you reveal an additional yellow or white event. So 2 events are always going to come out every round. These event cards get put down at the bottom of the board, and then they all get resolved from left to right. Now, printed on the board is this permanent event called the Marauders. That, no matter how many times you resolve that event, will always be on the board. It'll never go away. In addition to that, any of the cards that are currently face up are also going to get resolved. Marauders has a little black die under it, which means that you will roll 1 black die. Other events can have things like everyone loses 3 money, or everyone loses 2 influence, which is a currency we'll get to in a little bit.
Or everyone has to pull a stone off of the cathedral.
Yep, and hopefully it's one of the top stones, because we've seen what happens when the bottom ones disappear. People get crushed. Cathedrals don't get built. So those events get resolved. Things like everyone lose money, that's pretty straightforward. We all know what that means. But these black dice, like that come from the Marauders, the start player has to roll all the black dice that have been generated. And then, starting with the start player, it goes around the table, and it is each player's responsibility to resolve the highest black die that has not yet been resolved. So let's say I've got 3 black dice I need to roll. I roll a 6, I roll a 4, and I roll a 2. As the start player, I have to figure out what to do with this black 6 die. So I can spend dice that are in my district to resolve that die. So maybe I use this yellow 5 and this yellow 1. Or I use these 2 white 3s that I have. The cool thing about the red dice is they count double. So if I have a red 3, that's going to get rid of that black 6. Easy. If I have so many dice, if I'm just lousy with pips, and I want to cancel even more of these black dice, I certainly can, but I always have to at least resolve the highest one that is in front of me. So I'm going to resolve this black 6. I've got this black 4 and this black 1, and I hand them to Laura. Now, Laura has to at least resolve this 4 because it's the highest one, but if she's feeling adventurous.
Or maybe if I just only have a 5 in front of me, I can volunteer to tackle that 1 as well as the 4 that I have to tackle.
Yeah.
And if I manage to take down both of those dice, then I get an extra influence point, which is one of the currencies in the game.
Yep, we've mentioned influence. Influence is this cool currency that you can spend. You can spend 1 influence to reroll one of the dice that are in your district. You can spend 2 influence to get another one of these little meeples. And as we've alluded to, these meeples are going to get put in these buildings around the board and on the activities. We'll cover that in a bit, but meeples are very useful. Or you can spend a whopping 4 influence in order to take 1 to 3 dice in your district and just flip them over. Hey, do you have 3 1s? You just pay 4 influence, whoop, and now they are 3 6s.
Are you unlucky like Paul? Did you get a crap roll?
Yeah. So now the events are resolved. It's time to actually play the game. Starting with a start player, that person can take 1 to 3 dice, typically of the same color, and add up their pips and funnel those dice into one of the activities that are on the board. At the beginning of the game, there's a very small number of activities, and as the game goes on, more and more activities will get revealed from these cards that are on the board.
And one of the things that is super fun to me about this game is that you can only activate an activity if you have also paid the cost to put one of your meeples there. And each activity card only has 2 slots.
2 meeple slots.
So part of figuring out which activities you're going to use are, can I afford to get there and use the dice required to actually take the action? So as you build through from round to round, you're starting to set up which activities you'll have access to in this round and in subsequent rounds.
Yeah. Now, if I have an activity card that I want to put a meeple on and I can pay for it, but I don't have the dice to use the card, Laura, can I be a jerk and just put my meeple down there and then not use the card?
No, because you are referring to something that I tried to do last night. Nope. You must also use the card.
Yeah.
You cannot just be a jerk and take up that spot.
Don't be a jerk. You can spend your dice to use these activity cards. There's a couple of pre-printed spots on the board, like this one spot that lets you turn in 1 to 3 yellow dice and get some money, or turn in some white dice to go put stones at the cathedral, the boring cathedral, boring. But the thing about the boring cathedral is that it punishes you at the end of the game if you haven't contributed to it in certain ways. So deal with the boredom. Deal with the slog. So we've talked a lot about these activities. Let's talk about what some of them might actually do. Here's a good example. Let's say I have a yellow 5 and a yellow 3. And there's an activity on the board called the goldsmith. The goldsmith lets you take the value of the yellow dice that you've chosen, divide that by 4, and that's how many times you can activate the activity. And in this case, every time you activate the activity, you get 1 victory point and 2 monies. That's pretty cool.
It's especially great if you, as I did in this last round we played, have the bishopric card up there, activity rather, up there, where you can turn 1 white die into 3 yellow die of the same number.
That's great.
So when you initially activate that card, you have to pay the money, put your meeple on there, and then you feed it a number of 1 to 3 white dice divided by 3, and you put some cubes on it, which are kind of tokens that you can use to activate the activity at a later date.
Yep.
So in the example that Paul just gave of this one where you can get points and money for yellow pips divided by 4.
Let's say I had this white 4.
Yeah, that white 4, I take one of my cubes off of there that I stored from earlier.
Yeah.
And I get to turn that white 4 into 3 yellow 4s.
Yeah.
And then I feed those 3 yellow 4s into the goldsmith, and I would get 3 victory points and $6.
That sounds like a lot of math, but what it is, it's a lot of cool combos. We like combos in this house.
We love combos.
We love combos.
Fries with that.
And don't forget the Frosty. We like the Frosty. This show is not sponsored by Wendy's.
So the last thing that you can do with your dice is use them to station one of your meeples, one of your unused meeples, at one of the 3 spots on the board. As I think we may have laid out a couple of times over, the bishopric is associated with white dice. So if you want to use one of your white dies to place in there. You can put it in the same spot that corresponds to the die number that you're placing. You would, in this case, slide everyone else down and then kick somebody out too.
Boom. Give him the boot.
Yep. Similarly, the palace is associated with your red dice, and if you want to use one singular red die to place your meeple in the corresponding spot there, you will also kick out the person who's there.
Boom. Give him the boot.
And then the city hall is associated with the yellow dice. You would spend one singular yellow die to put your person. This one also slides from left to right and bumps somebody out.
Nope. This is a government office. We don't bump anybody. We gently show them the door.
And then they lay down over here for the rest of the round.
And they lay down on the grass.
One little rule is that if you get kicked out of one of the three buildings, you cannot be kicked out again that round. So there's a little bit of protection for, you're not going to get bumped excessively in a round, although it can really hurt you if you happen to get bumped from 2 or 3 buildings, because that's 2 or 3 fewer dice that you'll get next time.
Yeah, next round, we have a 1 boot policy around here. Now, it may come up to your turn, and you may have something you want to do, but you just don't have the dice in your district to do it. Well, guess what? You can give other players money in order to use their dice. But first, you have to decide how many dice you want to use for the activity you want to do. If I just want to use 1 die, and that 1 die is going to come from my opponent, I just give my opponent 2 monies for that die. But if I decide I want to use 3 dice for this activity, maybe 2 of mine and 1 for my opponent, the fact that I want to use 3 dice means that 1 die that I buy from my opponent
is more valuable.
Way more expensive. So the game lets you make these big groups of dice if you're willing to pay for it, but the rules kind of steer you in the direction of maybe using 1 or 2 dice from your opponent at a time.
Because of how expensive it gets.
Because of how expensive it gets. 6 money is a lot of money. And that's how this part of the round goes, around and around the table with everyone using dice, either from their district or paying their opponents to use their dice, feeding those dice into these activities, doing the cool things that are on all the activities, until people start deciding that they don't want to go anymore or that they can't. And when that happens, you can pass. You take 2 money from the bank and you put it in your district. So now everyone knows I have passed.
And if everyone else wants to keep playing after you've passed, then every time it comes back to your turn while everyone else takes theirs, you'll get another money. So passing early can be one way to kind of catch up a little bit on the money side.
Yeah. Oh, great. No, you guys just do your thing. I'm going to pass. I'm going to go get a drink. And when I come back, that'll be like 6 money that I got by doing nothing. Once everyone's taken all their turns that they want to take or can take, and everyone's passed, or once all the dice are gone from this delicious gray pie from the middle of the board. Alexa, have I already asked you to order that pie for me? Oh.
You have apple pie, pecan pie, pear pie.
Okay.
Strawberry
all right.
rhubarb
Thank
pie,
you. I don't, yes.
chocolate chess pie.
Thank you, Alexa.
Okay.
God, I don't like her at all. Once everyone is done taking their actions, either because they've all passed or there's no dice left on the board, then we end the round. Round's over. We pick up any of our meeples that have been bumped out, as Laura described earlier, and we start a new round. And depending on the number of players, we'll maybe go 4 rounds, 5 rounds, or 6 rounds. Once the final round has been played, then we do a little point tallying. We forgot to mention that at the beginning of the game, everyone gets a secret character card, which is going to lay out the public objectives for the game. I know what's in front of me, but I don't know what other characters are in front of everybody else.
There are 6 possible secret characters, all of whom carry one of these public objectives that will be revealed for scoring at the end of the game. And as Paul mentioned, depending on the number of players that you're playing with, you will have either 1 or 2 in your hand at the beginning. So you will have some sense of what the end of game scoring is going to be, but only a slice of that information.
Yeah, at the end of the game, Laura revealed the character that gives you victory points based on how much influence you have left at the end of the game. And she also revealed the one that gives you points based on how much money you've kept at the end of the game. But I didn't know that that's what she had in her hand, which would explain why she racked up the cash and also really just spiked her influence count. If I had been a little bit more wise, I probably would have followed suit. Another thing you can do with your dice, instead of sending them to these activities, is you can also use them to counteract these events that are down at the bottom of the board. Here's a sample event. This event is called Heresy. And Heresy, oh, isn't that fun? That's a fun subject, isn't it? This is Heresy. Heresy takes white dice, and when you allocate white dice to it, maybe I allocate 3 dice for a total of 15. This card says you take that 15, divide it by 3, and that's how many cubes you can put on that card. In this case, that's 5 cubes. And because there's 5 spots on the card, that'll resolve the event immediately. If I didn't have as many pips on those white dice, maybe I only put down 3 cubes. And then Laura could come along later and put those last 2 and resolve the event.
And every time you put a cube on an event, you do get influence immediately for the number of cubes that you put there. And you also get to contribute to the scoring of that card when it is completed. So the first, in the example of the Heresy card that Paul has, the first place player gets how many points?
3.
And the second?
2.
Great. So when the card is resolved, whoever has the most cubes will get the 3 points, and second most will get 2.
That's how you're going to clear those events out. If you don't clear them out, they're just going to keep stacking up, and you do not want like 8 or 9 events down at the bottom of that board.
To resolve at the beginning of every round.
No, here's 5 black dice, giving up 3 money, 2 influence. Neutral meeples are going to start kicking your player meeples out. It's just not good. You don't want that.
So now that we've covered how the game plays and how to score points and how to win, let's share our thoughts.
Yeah.
Paul, why don't you go first?
So I had this game years ago when it first came out, and people were still calling it Troyes, and there wasn't really the movement to pronounce it properly that there is today. At the time, I was thoroughly unimpressed, and it did not make the cut when I had to pare my collection down to stuff everything into a car and move out here to Boston.
To marry me.
To marry Laura. And that's the story. That's our whole story. But I kept seeing this name pop up on people's list of really good games, whether it's worker placement games or games involving dice or that kind of thing. And I said, maybe I was a little too harsh on that game when I had it. So I bought it, and I am really, really glad I gave it a second chance. I enjoyed it a lot last night. It was the first time I'd ever actually played it at 4 players. And it felt engaging to me. It felt like everyone's engine was just humming along. It was really cool. I really liked it. That's my short version.
I agree. And I think one of the things that is really nice about playing this with 4 people is that you are forced to have different engines because of this 2 meeple limit on each of the activities.
Yeah.
Nobody can really run through things the same way.
Yeah.
So it leads to a lot of variation as far as how different people are playing. We all really had different focuses, which was super fun. And it was also because of the open information. And I think it's optional to play with the victory points face up as we did last night.
Technically, it is not, but if you don't read the rulebook all the way through, like we did, you end up playing with this fun optional variant.
We basically played the whole game as open information with the exception of the final scoring cards, which I thought was really fun. But it was definitely interesting to kind of look around and think about who's, number 6 white die you might want to purchase, because you can kind of get a sense for what they might want to do. So it has a little bit of drafting things, partially just to hurt people.
Yeah.
But not too much of that, because you're never going to draft something that you're not also going to use.
We call that a hate draft.
Right. So it is, I think, was pretty fun to play with 4 players for that reason, because of all the variation and what we were all doing. But I also really like it for 2 players.
Okay. Tell me more.
Which is, how I was introduced to it. That's how we play it.
Yeah.
Of course, selfishly, the thing that I think is nice about playing with 2 players is you have all these possibilities, because nothing's going to get blocked off for you.
It's very open. It's a very open game with 2 players. And I'm going to say that's why I don't really like it at 2 players. I just feel like there's too many dice to go around in a 2-player. With a 2-player game, there's always a neutral player, no matter how many players you play with. That neutral player is going to have fewer dice in a 4-player game, but in a 2-player game, that neutral player has all kinds of dice that are available to them. But that also means there's more dice available to each of us.
Right, because we each also have more dice, and we can each also purchase from the neutral player.
Yeah, so there's not money going around the table. Any money we spend is typically going right back into the bank. So with more players, there's more pressure on you to buy dice from other players because you don't have enough of your own to do what you need to get done. And because you're buying those dice from other players, the money stays in the game, and everyone combined still has the same amount of money. And so everyone's just buying these dice from each other, And that I think that's more engaging. It keeps everyone more engaged in the game.
A lot more interaction.
Yeah.
I think maybe the piece that we didn't make fully clear is that there are the same number of total dice in the game no matter how many players that you play with.
Yeah. It doesn't you don't remove dice because you're playing with fewer players. It's just the neutral player gets more of those dice if you're playing with fewer.
Plus, I also think that this game is great for learning French because I don't know if this is typical or not, but
Yeah.
I certainly now know how to say drought in French. Sécheresse.
Sécheresse.
And Civil War, guerre civile, because all of these activities have the French language front and center with a little tiny translation right below it.
Yeah, there's a card reference, and we're looking for moi. And so, what is moi? I don't know. What is that? Moi? Oh, that's monk. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And what is this word? Procession. Like, what is that? I don't even know. Oh, that's procession. Okay. But yeah, it's a nice touch. The art is this kind of medieval looking thing with the weird stiff poses and the scrub down colors and the really old. I don't know. Is that old English? I'm not a font scientist, but it's a really nice hand drawn looking presentation that you don't really see this much these days anymore. It seems like games these days are a lot more obviously designed digitally, like in Photoshop, and then printed onto a board, as opposed to something that was maybe hand-drawn and then somehow scanned and printed onto a board.
Yeah, it looks like these images might be from like a children's book
Yeah.
of possibly
Boring
scary stories about
boring
knights
cathedrals.
or something.
Yeah. Children's book. Do not buy this book for our kid.
In conclusion, I say this is definitely a keeper.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it.
There's an expansion for the game. It's called The Ladies of Troyes. Hello, ladies.
What do the ladies bring to the table?
I actually don't know because it's sold out everywhere.
I'm imagining there's going to be like a kitchen that comes up on this side and you can cook food, and like maybe a laundry over there in the river where they can scrub your clothes.
I don't appreciate your your patriarchy, and I think I need to work harder to smash it. I still got it.
Woo!
That last one's that's like a big 96-ounce steak, I think. Delicious, but you instantly regret it halfway through.
You really got to stop eating the board games.
They're so tasty.
The casseroles, the steaks,
The pies.
the pies.
Yeah, those are some good games. We liked all of them. Are we keeping? Yeah, we're keeping all of them. Harvest Dice was kind of iffy, but the rest of them still staying on our shelf. They've survived. They live another day.
Mm-hmm. But next time Paul gets hungry,
Yep.
he starts eyeballing the game shelf.
Yep. I start rolling some dice, and if your number comes up, you are getting in the belly.
So lucky number 7. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Luck of the Dice episode.
Yeah.
7 reviews. 7th episode.
And done. And so we're gonna hop on a plane. We're feeling lucky. We're gonna hop on a plane. We're gonna head down to Vegas, and I'm gonna just bet it all on one single toss of the dice. We're going down to the craps table. I'm feeling lucky.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope.
Well, okay. Your loss.
Thank you for honoring us with your ears.
No, here's 5 black dice. Everyone has to give up 3 money, 2 influence, and get double booted in the face, not just the bum. I'm not going to keep that one.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Nope. Not going to keep that one.
Double booted in the face, not just the bum.
Those are the only 2 boot zones.